Let's bring in Senator Lindsey Graham, chairman of the Senate Budget Committee. No one knows more foreign policy or leaders than he does. Senator, welcome back. How do you feel about the foreign minister's stance now in Iran?
Well, half-truths are better than no truth at all. They don't intend to stop enriching, but not because of national pride, not because of a desire for peaceful nuclear power, because they want a bomb. We know they have 900 pounds of highly rich uranium, enough to make about a dozen bombs. That enrichment program has not generated 1 gram of uranium to run their one reactor. They get all their fuel for their peaceful reactor from Russia. Their enrichment program makes uranium at 60%, which is a stone's throw to 90%. So all the evidence is contrary to what he said, and the desire to make a bomb by Iran has not been decimated.
So the president said, listen, if they start rebuilding it up again, it's an open target. We're going to take another shot at it, essentially. And I know Israel will, too. They have to realize this.
Well, why? Because I think the Iranians are religious Nazis. Maybe not the Iranian people, but the Ayatollah and his henchmen are. They write on the side of their missiles, death to America, death to Israel, and they mean it. So what is a good outcome for the world, Israel and the rest of us? They abandoned their missile program that has been designed to reach out to Israel and beyond, that they stop being the largest state sponsor of terrorism, helping the Houthis, Hezbollah, and Hamas kill the Jews, and they abandoned enrichment completely. If they want a peaceful nuclear power program, we can provide them, outside of Iran, spent fuel rods to run their reactor. Spent fuel is enriched to 3 to 5%. The Russians or the Chinese can provide that. There is no good deal that doesn't include their missile program, their enrichment program, and their support for terrorism. I don't think we're likely to get that. So what happens next? I have legislation putting tariffs on any country that buys oil from Putin and doesn't help Ukraine. Why am I doing that? And I'm trying to go to Putin's customers to get them to push him to the table. I'm going to introduce similar legislation regarding Iran. I'll be soon introducing legislation saying that any country that buys Iranian oil will be subject to American tariffs because you're propping up a terrorist regime, and that will continue until the regime changes their behavior.
Do you think there'll be these snapback sanctions that they're lobbying hard not to have happen? So you think that's going to happen, that Europe's on the same page? What if China and Russia doesn't agree?
Well, Europe, the snapback sanctions really are in the hands of the Europeans. China and Russia didn't sign on. They're in the UN Council, but these sanctions, sort of European-American sanctions. So snapback will happen. So what are we trying to do? We're trying to get the regime to change its behavior. Stop being the largest state sponsor of terrorism. Stop wanting to kill all the Jews. Stop manufacturing weapons for terrorists to be used throughout the world to harass the world, and they have American blood on their hands in Iran. So if we do not reimpose sanctions, and what I'm proposing really is the only thing that will work, I believe. If we tell China and Russia or China and other countries, if you buy Iranian oil to keep this regime afloat, if they don't change their behavior, then we're going to put tariffs on all your products coming into America. That will deliver a mighty blow to the Ayatollah, and that's where I'm headed.
I hear you. And so a couple of things that are going on. We're still waiting on the hostage story. Can you update us on that? I mean, the Qataris are working with Steve Witkoff. Are we getting closer? We thought it was going to be last weekend.
Yeah. Well, I'm hopeful. Steve is going on over to Europe, and he's worked really hard on this. Then he's supposed to go to Doha. And if you see him in Doha, that's a good sign that we'll reach a ceasefire. But what are we trying to accomplish here? We want the hostages out. That's for darn sure. But we have to succeed in destroying Hamas's capability to govern Gaza, their ability to stay part of the fabric of society in Gaza, because they're a terrorist organization bent on the destruction of Israel. So any deal has to lead to Hamas being completely out of the picture, and that's non-negotiable for Israel.
And by the way, Iran says they told Brett last night, the foreign minister, they're going to continue to fund Hamas and Hezbollah because they're fighting for their freedom. They're freedom fighters. So,
well, here's what I would say. You know the old story: one man's freedom fighter is another person's terrorist.
Yep.
By any objective standard, this regime is terrorist in nature, and they're literally religious Nazis. It's 80 years ago was the end of the war in Europe, where the Germans tried to annihilate the Jews. Here you have, 80 years later, a nation-state called Iran, who is built around a religious theocracy that compels them to purify Islam, go after Sunni Arabs, destroy the Jewish state, and come after us, Americans who are, we're infidels, and drive us out of the region. They believe this stuff. And if they had a nuclear weapon, I am convinced they would use it. So Israel cannot allow that happen, and we should not allow that happen. So call Iran's bluff. They're in many ways all talk. Israel decimated their air defenses. Between Israel and President Trump, and I admire President Trump so greatly here for destroying Fordo and these other sites. But they will come back. They will continue to try to make a nuclear weapon because they think that is the home run for their regime. So we got to be on alert here. Let Israel continue to bomb if they need to, but offer Iran a deal. But the deal has to be an abandonment of all the things bad they do for it to be accepted by America. And if they turn this deal down, tell China that if you continue to buy Iranian oil, you will lose access to the American economy.
That'll be a huge move because he's working so hard to work out a framework on trade, but that's got to be the story. Senator Lindsey Graham, our guest. Senator, the other big story is not going away. 2016, what was going on with Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, John Brennan, James Comey, Joe Biden, and Susan Rice, leading up to the Russian collusion illusion and the new information that came out. You were all over this. You thought Senator Sessions had to step aside when he was Attorney General because they made up some story that he met with an ambassador while he was senator, and that seemed to be a bad deal. Now, FoxNews.com has just put this out, that the intelligence community did not have any direct information that Russia's Putin wanted to help elect Trump. And they said President Obama took the unusual direction and published a potentially biased or implausible intelligence suggesting otherwise, even though his intelligence said something else. And for the next 2.5 years, what do we talk about? And you on every Sunday show, Donald Trump colluding with Vladimir Putin to win an election. So the president wants indictments. He wants this. Where do you think we go from here?
I think we continue to investigate. So Tulsi Gabbard sent over a package that she wants the Department of Justice to look at for potential prosecution. I lost 2.5 years of my life, like most people in your business did, chasing this, right? When the issue first came up, Jeff Sessions was part of Trump's campaign, and there were some issues about whether or not he could be impartial. And I've tried in my time up here to make sure the law is applied fairly as I know how. And the special counsel was appointed. It was Mueller. Well, it turned out to be the Mueller investigation, one of the saddest chapters in American legal history. It was corrupt. One of the attorneys for the FBI provided false information to the FISA court to get a warrant against Carter Page. He wound up being prosecuted and spent some time in jail. You had the Steele dossier that was produced by Christopher Steele, who was on Hillary Clinton's campaign payroll, that was used to get a warrant against Carter Page 5 times. And the person who provided the information to Christopher Steele told the investigators, this is all bar talk. This is all hearsay. It was never meant to be used in a legal system, and they continued anyway. But now what do we know? We know that in October, before the election of 2016, that they started the storyline that Trump, this came from Brennan, was somehow involved nefariously with Russians. This came out before the election, but it didn't get a lot of traction. They tried, but it didn't. Now we know after the election, from November to the time that President Trump was sworn in, Obama presided over meetings and basically said, I don't like the answer here. Go find something new. That, to me, is stunning. That is a major revelation, and we should continue to investigate. So now, for me, I'm going to sit down and think, do we need a special counsel here? I'm going to get with my staff. I'm going to talk with some of my colleagues. You have from the DNI a package going to the Justice Department, a referral to look at possible criminal violations of the law. Maybe we need a special counsel here. I'll get back with you soon. But this is a big deal, and Republicans do not be deterred from looking at it. The media sold the Russian hoax as real. Now they're providing cover, and we can't let that happen.
Here's what Congressman Jim Himes said in one of the only times this was an issue on the Sunday shows.
What you saw from the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, was not just a lie, but a very dangerous lie, because when you start throwing around language like sedition and treason, somebody's going to get hurt. Now, you pointed out that the Senate committee, then led by Marco Rubio, a Republican and now Secretary of State, found unanimously that Russia meddled in the election to try to assist Donald Trump. John Durham, special counsel appointed by Donald Trump, investigated this, found that the Senate report was correct.
So how do you feel about that?
Well, what I would say is the question is, what role did Obama play in directing the intelligence community to reject their findings? With all due respect to the congressman, the intelligence community was telling President Obama in the period between Trump being elected and coming into office, keep looking. There's got to be something there. I don't like the outcome. That's what Tulsi Gabbard found. So I don't remember the John Durham report validating that Russia interfered in the election. I'll be glad to look and see what Marco and these guys said. But I do know that the intelligence community, according to these documents, told Obama there is no evidence of Russia interference in the election, and the storyline changed after Obama said, keep looking.
Evidently, yeah. 2014, they started looking into what Russia wanted to do. In 2016, they found out it was basically Facebook ads. They would try things, but they couldn't do anything. It's too diffuse. They can't affect it. But instead, they tried for 2.5 years to say Donald Trump was an illegitimate president. Everybody knows.
Mueller.
And think about, and that was Hillary Clinton all the time. And think about this. How much damage was done to Russian relations. Nobody thinks less of Vladimir Putin than me. But do you realize when he was standing next to Donald Trump, and he said, I didn't do all this stuff that they said I did, he was actually telling the truth? That they were coming up with all these tangential stories, that he's in Helsinki and the President Trump's getting eviscerated? But he was right. He's like, I believe that he did not infiltrate our elections, and I certainly didn't collude with him.
Yeah, I believe that people have been murdered on his watch that oppose him. I believe he's a war criminal, but I don't believe the narrative that Trump was basically an agent of Russia. It wasn't that Russia was trying to interfere in the election. The storyline was that Donald Trump was up to his eyeball in Russian business deals and was compromised personally, that he had done things in Russia that would make him unfit to be president, that he engaged in behavior that would lead to blackmail. This wasn't just about Russia attempting to, manipulate votes. Mm-hmm. It was about Russia setting Donald Trump up, and he was a compromised candidate and president, which was all BS. It was designed to destroy Trump as a person and his entire family. That's what people don't ever tell you in the mainstream media. The Steele dossier was designed to destroy Donald Trump personally.
And by the way, John McCain thought it was real and dropped it off, I think, on Comey's desk.
I know. John McCain was given the Steele dossier, and he turned it over to the FBI, not knowing it to be real or not. It's not an irresponsible thing to do. If somebody gives you a document that alleges bad things, well, you turn it over to the cops. Well, what happened here? The cops were corrupt. Comey and Brennan, I think, wanted the dossier attached to the report. about Russia's involvement, knowing that it was a bunch of BS. So the point here is that when the FBI got the document and started investigating the source of Christopher Steele, the source told the FBI agents in 2 distinct interviews, this is bar talk. This is hearsay.
I know.
This was reported up the chain, and they went for it anyway.
Senator, appreciate it. We're up against a break, but always great talking to you. It's amazing we're still going through this, but new information's coming down. Senator Lindsey Graham, always great. Talk to you soon.